take your life seriously.
So we're on part 2. We're going to do 3 parts today. We've got Neto coming in, Dan Strauss in now. We've just taken part in the fundamentals seminar. Do you want to talk about your role in that and what you're doing recently and how you've achieved some good stuff?
Sure. So when you say fundamental in jiu-jitsu, it's like you just think it's a basic technique, right? No. So fundamental is a men's mental health and well-being charity organization.
Mm-hmm.
They got in contact with the UK Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Association to do some work together within the space. And then I am on the board for the UKBJJA, so I kind of make myself available to help out on events like this.
Nice.
So I thought it was a really good cause. Men's mental health is something that I don't think there are many men out there who it wouldn't be like something that they would be passionate about, but it is something that I'm passionate about, of course. And so I jumped at the opportunity to help out organising this.
Nice. So the UK BJJA, so you've been working with them recently. How are you finding that?
So the so I'm on the board of directors at the UKBJJA. So before people get really upset that I'm like part of the enemy, I kind of I joined. They had elections. They had vote for it is elections for new board members. You know, the chairs of different like new chairman and you know the head of England and Wales and Scotland and stuff like that. And I applied to be the director of England. I didn't get it, but they asked if I would come on the board anyway to sort of help out with stuff. And I kind of joined. I applied because the UKBJJA has got a lot of stick in the past. And I don't think a lot of it has been, I think some of it's been a bit unwarranted and some of it hasn't. But they've got a lot of stick in the past for being a waste of space. I'll just go ahead and say it. And I guess you could have made that argument until a really important event happened, which was they were recognised as the national governing body.
Yeah.
So that was the kind of whole aim of the UKBJJA in the first place. Now they have, it's really significant. So like, love it or hate it, the UKBJJA is here to stay. It's an important part of the sport now. And, you know, I think it's important that people kind of get behind it. That's not to say that they're without fault. I think there's a lot of stuff recently. A lot of people have been upset about... I don't want to make this whole thing about
don't go
about that.
too far
But
into it,
basically, there's been a lot of issues with like insurance and coverage and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that, and that was an issue not with the organisation, but it was actually with PayPal, who basically had got funny with direct debits and stuff like that. And I know that they could definitely be a lot better with customer service. These are all things that I am going to take to the next board meeting and tell them about, because like I said, like I'm not here to fight. I joined the board of directors to bridge the gap a little bit between the community and the organization.
Nice.
Not to just be part of the organization. So they do a lot of stuff. They are definitely good for the sport. There are lots and lots of people working for free around the clock on top of their regular day job to do stuff for the sport, such as events like this. So we'll keep on persevering.
I think that's good because, as you said, you're outside the organisation. You've got inside now, and you've seen what they're doing. It's quite a lot.
Yeah, I was recent. Look, when I first saw it, I was as critical as everyone else was. I thought, it's just a load of hot air. But then when you actually get involved and you go, like, these people are doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes. It's not easy, and they're doing it for free. Yeah, there's only one person who's employed, and there's like 10, 15 people on the board. It's like a really big job. And it's run like, the reason it's a big job is there's a lot of bureaucracy, there's a lot of red tape, there's a lot of paperwork, there's a lot of like, it's a proper organization. A lot
of manpower there behind that. So today we talked about men's mental health downstairs, and it's you. I think you sort of really emphasised the point that subconsciously we know the sport is good for us mentally. Me and Mark talk about it consciously sometimes, so we can sort of recognise that, but a lot of people don't recognise how good it is for us mentally. Do you want to put a little nail on that sort of point on that? Yeah,
I guess like there are things that we do that are good for our mental health without where we understand it superficially.
Yeah.
Like, why do you like jiu-jitsu? Because a lot of people will tell you the main reason they do jiu-jitsu is because it's good for their mental health. Like, they are very aware that is it, but maybe aren't super aware of the mechanisms in which that is happening psychologically.
Yeah.
So I think, and I think sometimes, you when you just allow things to happen subconsciously you're not getting the full value of
Yes.
something that can happen.
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe if I was to make the comparison to like lifting a weight, where maybe someone talks a lot about mind muscle connection. Maybe if you're just moving a weight without thinking, you're not engaging the muscles in the same way than if you were really focusing on doing that exercise.
Definitely.
If that makes sense.
I think so, and I think it's almost, sorry to interrupt, it's like teaching a technique. First time you start to teach, you're like, oh, teach an armbar. You're like, well, I know how to do it, but I don't actually know the mechanics. Like, and then when you start to teach it, you break it down. You're like, oh, this is why I'm putting my hand there. This is why I'm holding the elbow, and then that has a deeper impact in your game.
Yes.
So I think if we can spread that word about how good it is, then maybe more people will start to jump on. It's a big topic at the minute and something that we sort of shy away from. And as you said downstairs, the jiu-jitsu is not for everyone, which is controversial in itself. But I think you're right with that as well, because, and I think not physically,
no,
but more mentally, like
Yeah.
you were saying before. And I feel like if you're not ready to take a deeper look at yourself, where you're weak or you're not very good, then it's going to push you away, and you're not ready for it. Maybe you come back the following year and you try it again.
Yeah.
But that's more sort of, I think, psychological than it is, or it's more subconscious than conscious. People just, oh, it's not for me, I can't handle it. But I think more it's probably down to the ego, or whatever you want to call it, saying like, oh, it's not for me, you know. Because when I first started to do the sport, I believed I was tough. Coming into the gym, I thought I was already tough. I've been to war, been as ex-council kid, you know, I had loads of fights. I probably had about 3 in my life, but believed I was still tough. And actually had a bit of a reputation around my like local area of being quite tough and just a little scrote, if I could say anything about it. But you know, coming into a gym and getting choked out by a 14-year-old or by whoever it's going to be, a female, and thinking, actually, I don't know anything about it. And having that sort of vulnerability we talked about downstairs, which is a strange word to talk about, to actually look at yourself and say, oh yeah, I am vulnerable in some places and I need to work on that.
Do you know what I think the magic of this sport is, and this is just my opinion with life in general, and that's that human beings are at their happiest when they're experiencing growth, like physically, mentally, spiritually. Because when you know, people talk about comfort zones a lot, and when we live in our comfort zone, it gets very boring, and that's when you start to get inside your head, and you know, negative thoughts start to creep in. But if you're constantly pushing for growth, in many different areas of your life, you feel happier, don't you? When it's difficult, it's uncomfortable. You've got to step outside that comfort zone and push yourself to be the person you need to be to achieve whatever it is you're trying to achieve. And I think BJJ is a non-stop journey of constant growth. I mean, you just got your black belt, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people that I've heard over the years say that when they get it, it's like starting again from scratch, and it never ends. They're constantly learning something. The things they're learning may be getting smaller and more niche, but they're equally as valuable as when they first started. So it's that growth of constantly striving to be a better jiu-jitsu player, which in turn makes you a better human being, which I think we talk about this, don't it? Makes you a better father, makes you a better husband, makes you a better friend, a better employee, a better member of society, whatever it is. But it's the constant pursuit. I call it constant never-ending improvement. There's a Japanese philosophy, Kaizen. You're just constantly trying to better yourself all the time. That's when I believe humans are at their best, and that's what I think this sport gives to people, is that constant improvement. You're always trying to, you know, whether it's going through the belt system, going to competitions, or just for your physical, mental fitness, you're always improving if you put the man hours into the sport.
Yeah, I think you're spot on, actually. And it reminds me of something like, I think it was Nietzsche who said that the goal in life shouldn't be happiness but power. And when people hear that, they immediately think of like power in a Machiavellian sense, that, you know, but it's not. What Nietzsche meant by power was sort of more akin to mastery.
Personal
you know?
power.
Yeah, no, yeah. So like, be that your jiu-jitsu, or be that your ability to cook, or your ability to write, or whatever it is, it's the constant increase of that ability. Same sort of thing. What you're talking about is growth. And I think the beauty of that is that mastery is an unattainable goal. And the more, you know, what is it, Dunning-Kruger, the more you do something, the more you realize that you don't know anything. And when true mastery is really an impossible skill, where the last 1% is infinitely bigger than the first 99%, it means that you're on a path that you get to walk forward on, not stand still on, and never reach the end of. And I think when people, when people think about what would make them happy, they have very concrete things in mind. And that's not to say that I don't think that you should have goals in your life that you should cross or that you should strive for, but the goal should never be a finite. It should never end, whether it's want to get your black belt. I think it's the people that it's the problem with people who want to get their blue belt. It's very goal orientated. Okay. It's not about, when you say, what's your goal in jiu-jitsu, to a white belt, and they say, I want to get my blue belt, you go, well, you will, and then what? And then the whole goal has to change. They have to change their personality, their identity, their motivation in life. Or in jiu-jitsu now has to change to something else. You go to a white belt, it would be a very enlightened white belt, the most enlightened white belt I've ever met. But if you asked them and you said, what's your goal in jiu-jitsu? And they simply said mastery, you go, fucking hell. Right? Yeah. And you go, okay, well, you're never going to reach it, and you'll be able to keep doing it until the day you die. So, and I think that if you take pleasure in the journey, it's very cliche, not the destination, and that's what jiu-jitsu allows you, is one of the things. But I don't think, I think jiu-jitsu is special in other ways, but I think anything can have that same thing. It can be anything. It
mastery, could be approach to mastery. Anything could be in any avenue,
and that's a mindset, isn't it?
Exactly,
that's a mindset you got to have. So, I got two questions.
Yeah.
I'm switching gears a little bit. And the first one is, where did you get the nickname Raspberry Ape? And the second one is, how, after 17 years of training, have you kept your ears in such good condition? Because Ricky's are messed up.
Mine's gone. Either one.
My answer to the first one, because we're on the clock a little bit, I won't give you the full fake story. I would make up a lot of fake stories about the origin of my nickname, but there's nothing particularly interesting. So I just won't answer it, and then I'll keep an air of mystery about it. The ears, I just tell people that no one gets side control on me. So I think that there's a genetic predisposition for the ears. So I think you probably had them pretty quick.
Yeah, I think also
everyone knows a white belt with cauliflower ears that makes them look like they should be a black
game
belt.
you play as well. Play pressure passing game.
You got a head like a fucking
massive
rhino head,
like a shipping container.
Yeah, it is.
I use it for everything.
I think if you showed me your head without your ears, I bet he's got cauliflower ears.
Only one though as well.
He's like his head. He's got a head like a fire hydrant, and he's a big guy, and he's a black belt. He's got cauliflower ears. Yeah.
It's because I was past the one side of my coach for like 7 years, and he just kept smashing me in the ear until I actually thought, well, maybe I should pass the other side, or put my head up and pass another direction. Takes a long time to learn. Talking about the black belt situation, I just received mine a week
Congratulations.
ago. Thank you very much. It's you said it's sort of changing goals now. We've the sport's growing massively. There's going to be loads of black belts at one stage in the country.
Already
there's some black belts that are out there that just like to coach, and they cruise and they do other things. I don't class you as one of them. You're very open at when you teach. You're saying today you mentioned an armbar that you did for 15 years, and now you've focused in on a technique and you've changed your whole game. Have you got any advice for me for stepping forward? How do I not fall into that trap of being a stagnant black belt?
Well, do you know what? A lot of people. The good news is that the sort of mental constitution that you have to get the black belt is sort of the same sort of attitude you need on beyond that. You're like. When you get to black belt and you realise that you just put your trousers leg on one leg at a time as usual and nothing changes. I'm just over 9 years as a black belt now. Wow. And you were talking earlier, Mark, about how you can still learn stuff and you may think that by the time you get the black belt, the only stuff that you've left to learn is very small things. No, the amount of stuff I show you today, I learned in my 17th year of doing jiu-jitsu.
Crazy.
And this is huge, monumental changes to my game. Not small changes, and then the other thing you have, I've coached for a long time as well. I've coached for 16 years. So I view jiu-jitsu through two lenses, as a practitioner and separately as a coach. It's just a general quirk of my personality that I'm very analytical with things, but analytical in a way where I'm thinking about how I can communicate it to other people, which either is convenient for my job or is my job because that's how I am. But like the that I teach and I do a podcast and I commentate. So it's all stuff about communicating.
Yeah.
So when I view jiu-jitsu and like for me, people will struggle to believe that you could do something for 17 or 18 years and still enjoy it or still have a like that novelty or that excitement about it. I guarantee you I'm more excited about jiu-jitsu now than I was when I was a blue or purple belt, because I mean, like, I will train on a daily basis, and we're talking about this a little bit earlier. Interesting thing, people say that when they it's a really interesting topic I've just been thinking about recently, this meditative state when you're rolling, you can't think about anything else, so like you think of nothing. I'm like, I don't think of nothing. I actually roll. When I roll is when I am the most creative in terms of things, not in terms of what I'm doing. So obviously you can get creative about it, but like I have ideas when I do. It's very strange.
Yeah,
I have ideas when I do jiu-jitsu. So I've started in the last, I mean, I've been doing it more over the last few years, but even more so in the last few months. I take notes in between rounds about stuff that's not even, I might see something and I'll go, oh, okay. Like this is how I'm going to, this is going to be the format of the book I'm writing, or like I mean like that, like almost a flow state where the brain waves are different and I sort of get more creativity. So then when you have stuff like that, you're like, fuck, this is endless.
Yeah.
I've gone completely off topic. You just asked me how to continue having fun as a black belt. But you get the idea. Like, it goes back to what we were saying before. If the goal is mastery, you go black belt is just like, it's like stopping off at a service station on the way. It's just another stop on the journey.
Yeah.
And then you go, oh yeah, it's been 3 years, and it's been 6 years, and it's been 9 years, and it's been 12 years, and it's been 15, and it's been 20, and then, you know, and then you're too fucking old to do anything anyway. So you just sit on the side, but then you watch someone do that, and you go, oh, that's interesting.
It does seem like you hyper focus on one area for a long time, which I don't.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Yeah, which is, I think that's quite a good skill to have. You can see every aspect from the
There's just like I think, but this is true for me of everything in life, is it's nice to have a nice broad range of interests or hobbies or whatever, but if you never dig below the surface, how much can you tell about the earth by looking at the ground?
Yeah, you got to go in.
You know?
Yeah.
You know, there's grass there. You go under. Oh, that's not grass. That's mud. You go under that. It's like, oh, it's water. You keep going, and you know, it's oil. And then, oh, is that lava down there? You know, but you keep on going deeper, and the deeper you go into something, the more beautiful it is, you know. And I think a lot of people just think like you go deep on jiu-jitsu, but then when you go deep on jiu-jitsu, you go, I'm gonna look at this blade of grass, and then I'm gonna I have a terrible habit of going too deep into my analogies, speaking of that. And you know, but yeah, I like to immerse myself in and when you've done jiu-jitsu for a really long time and you have like a really long time scale on it, if I told someone who was a blue belt who's trained for 3 years that they should spend a year focusing only on mount, one, it would not be good advice, but two, they'd go, what the fuck are you talking about? That's a quarter of all my time training jiu-jitsu. I'm going to spend it on one position out of many positions. But when you've been training jiu-jitsu for 18 years and you're going to be training jiu-jitsu for another 20 or 30 years, what's a year to spend focusing on mount?
It's not.
And I'm not focusing on mount on purpose. I'm focusing on mount because I'm in love with it at the moment.
Yeah.
So it's not, I did not dictate. A year ago, I didn't decide for the next year I'm going to focus on mount. I had an epiphany about one position, which then lured me in. Nice, you know, the first little breadcrumb was on the precipice of the cave, and then I got inside, and then I got deeper and deeper and deeper. Nice. And then the more you do, I mean, like every day I'm learning now, so it's beautiful when it happens.
That's good that you've got that passion still at that, and I think that's probably, I wouldn't say that's there with every black belt still. Some do get tired about it. Going back to your analogy when you roll, if I had to guess, I think because, you know, as you said, you haven't achieved mastery. From my perspective, you probably can do it subconscious. So when you roll, your subconscious is just doing everything. Yeah. And your conscious mind is just there. It's the same when you have a shower, so those ideas pop in or whatever. So it's nice to get to that, but it's nice to get to that level.
Yeah, but we all do that.
Yeah,
we all do that. Everyone who does jiu-jitsu, just Roger Gracie's subconscious will be better than mine, and my subconscious might be a bit better than yours,
Yeah.
and your subconscious will be a bit better than the blue belts.
Yeah.
Everyone has like jiu-jitsu really is not about what you know, it's about what you internalize. It's what you don't know. It's what you don't know, you know.
Yes.
That's what jiu-jitsu is really about. Because the fact of the matter is you can't be doing the you can work out, man, this guy's defending really weird, or I roll with you, Mark, and like I've never rolled with a triple amputee before, so I've got okay, so that's a lot of cognitive processes going on. But at the same time, everything that's happening, the whole body's moving. I can't be consciously in control of my toes and my ankles and my knees and my elbows and my neck. All of that stuff is happening automatically, and then in the foreground of your mind, you have some possibly cognitive problem solving, and then obviously a white belt and a blue belt. The cognitive stuff is like like they can't make sense of it at all.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
What's next for you then? Like,
So,
what's the focus?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question, for fuck's sake. I've been trying to open a gym for the last sort of 2.5 years. So I've taught jiu-jitsu since I was 16.
Wow.
Started training jiu-jitsu when I was 14. And there were, technically when I started training jiu-jitsu, there were no UK born and bred black belts. So I started training jiu-jitsu when I was 14, which was in 2005. And by the time I got my blue belt, I started teaching jiu-jitsu classes at 16, and I was teaching adults, and I've taught ever since. I taught at Mill Hill Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for 12 years up until just before COVID. For the last 4 or 5 years of it, I had my own no-gi program. I was competing a lot. It was going very well. And then I felt like I didn't have any growth left at that place. So I wanted to travel, train, do stuff, move around a little bit. Basically a couple of years of training, of traveling, competing, whatever. And then COVID happened. And I couldn't do anything. And by the time everything opened up again, I'd realized that the most important thing to me is actually having a team. And I love teaching. And which is why I volunteer myself to do stuff like this, or beg my friend to let me teach at his gym. Like, I'll do it for free, just let me teach. I really love doing it. So for the last couple of years, I've been looking to open my own gym. That's kind of still the main focus. But what I realized last year, after kind of only focusing on that, is that it's not fully in my control. There's a lot of other variables out there that I can't control. So I realized that you can't have a goal based on something that you can't control. That's a really bad goal. So I have other goals. The main focus at the one right now is I've been writing a book on grip training for the last couple of years, very slowly, and I've just got so many projects going on at the moment that I was like, I can't do everything at once. I'm just going to focus on the book. So right now I'm trying to focus on the book. I'm trying to get this done within the next couple of weeks, a month. And then I'll be focusing on other projects, like a lot of instructional stuff. If I can't teach in person, I still want to be able to give on the information. So both in strength and conditioning world and in the jiu-jitsu world, teaching and putting out information on. I have a Ape Academy online. Go check it out, which sneaky plug there. And then on top of that, I do a lot of work on either seminars, teaching camps around this time of year, and doing commentary for grappling shows and MMA shows as well.
Nice.
Cool. We won't keep you for long today. I know you've got stuff to do. Final question for me, unless you've got anything else, is how important is strength training? Me and Mark both do jiu-jitsu, but we also recognise that strength training is important, all that kind of stuff. I feel like still... if I had to put a number on it, I would say that probably 70 to 80% of some student-based clubs probably just do jiu-jitsu and maybe don't do anything outside that.
I don't think, and this may be interesting to you, there's nothing wrong in my opinion if someone doesn't do any strength training.
Okay.
I think it comes down to what your goals are and how much time you have.
Yes.
If someone has, and that you've got to be realistic about people. I know people have a really bad habit, especially full-time coaches or full-time athletes, or people who have been in a fortunate position where they're able to spend a lot of time training.
Yeah, me.
Whether they've worked really hard to put themselves in that fortunate position or whether they haven't, it doesn't matter. But people who are in fortunate positions maybe lack a little bit of understanding of people who are not such fortunate positions, and someone with 3 kids who works a 50-hour, 60-hour work week, and they have a couple of evenings a week to do something. If they have 2 days or 3 days a week to do something, and they can pick from working out or they can pick doing jiu-jitsu, and their goal is to be better at jiu-jitsu, just do jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, definitely.
You know,
Yeah.
it's when people get to, okay, well, I'm going to jiu-jitsu 7 8, 9, 10 sessions a week.
Yeah.
Well, you're doing any strength and conditioning? No. Okay, well, that's a disconnect.
Yeah.
Because you got the time, you get the diminishing returns on the jiu-jitsu from a technical perspective. You're probably not like, someone who trains jiu-jitsu 10 times a week is not going to be automatically better than someone who trains jiu-jitsu 5 times a week. Especially a lot of the people who do huge volume, it's very mindless.
Yes.
A lot of people think that if they just show up to class, they get better. And it's a train hard, not train smart mentality. So, and then you have the physical degradation, the degrading physically from the overuse injuries of jiu-jitsu, which is really where the strength stuff complements the jiu-jitsu the most. It's not like the mentality that people have with strength training is, in jiu-jitsu, I do lots of pulling and gripping and biceps, so I'll go to the gym and I'll make my pulling and gripping my biceps stronger, so I'll be better at jiu-jitsu. And then you go, okay, so you have an overuse, you have an imbalance from jiu-jitsu, and now you exacerbate it in the gym. So you want to make sure that you're not doing that. Obviously you can do that, but you got to make sure that it's more well-rounded, where you're not making the fat, you're not exacerbating the issue of the physicality in jiu-jitsu. Nice. But apart from that, if we were in a fantasy world where everyone had loads of time to do everything, strength and conditioning is great.
Yeah. And you think, I know conditioning is probably coming from the mats, but more strength training, I think, as you get older is more important as well, would you say, for protecting joints? And
yeah, I think so. I think it's worth it as you get into your 40s and beyond. Keeping as much muscle mass on your body is one of the biggest indicators of all-cause mortality. So staying strong and keeping muscle becomes really, really important. For women, it becomes more important to stem stuff like osteoporosis and stuff like that, bone conditions as their hormone levels fluctuate through menopause, stuff like that. We'll get too much detail there. Cool. But it's really important to do resistance training. And I think that once you get past a certain age, it could start to be worth dropping jiu-jitsu back where there's a higher case of injury in favor of doing some intelligence strength and conditioning stuff.
Yeah, I think so as well.
But as people get older, what they tend to do is they tend to reduce their overall output. So they want to keep that stuff solely doing jiu-jitsu, but you're better off doing some sort of external physical training outside of jiu-jitsu to maintain your capacity to do the jiu-jitsu to a higher quality and in the long run.
So you mentioned just now, can you say it again? You've got something online that you...
Yeah, so I've got 3 instructionals out online at the moment. One is a grip training instructional, one's a sandbag training instructional, both aimed at grapplers, and one is a guillotine instructional.
Nice.
And you can find them at apeacademyonline.com.
Boom, boom. Okay, any more questions for you, mate?
No, I think that's it, man.
Awesome. Well, thanks for your time, Dan. I know you're busy. Thank you very much.
Cheers, man. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Cheers, mate. Thank you, mate.
Cheers, guys.
I was going to ask if you had any
Yes, brother.
concept-based instructions I could look at.
Guillotine one's good. I think you get.
You got it? Oh, nice.
I think you'll get out of that.
So